Did you know there are so many conferences in college basketball? In fact, DRS, 31 at the Division I level of men's college hoops. 30 of 31 conference tournaments have either already started, are underway, or frankly, have been completed. One conference tournament still waiting to begin, but that changes on this Friday. The Ivy League, only an 8-school league, sending 4 teams to its conference tourney, looking for the automatic bid to the big dance. In the number 1 seed in the Ivy League tournament, best team, frankly, in this conference, that is Yale. They are the odds-on favorite at minus 190. Of course, maybe you remember the Bulldogs from a magical March run a season ago, upsetting Auburn in the opening round of 64 in a 4-13 matchup. Danny Wolf, starring for Yale at the time, now plays for Michigan. But DRS, Yale expected to be back in the big dance and maybe a team you could look for to make some opening round or opening weekend noise once again.
Yeah, and they might be able to do that. As you said, 20-7 overall, 13-1, excuse me, in the Ivy League. The one thing that I do find is interesting is Cornell is top 20 in the country in adjusted tempo and also fires from three-point range, making it at a 39.3% clip as a team. Maybe it's one of those teams where you play with that adjusted tempo, you play with that fire from the three-point range, and you're able to knock them off. But just going over some numbers, I believe Yale also beat Cornell twice this season. So the matchup not as great as it is on paper when they do play out on the court, but we've seen crazier things happen. By the way, this tournament, who is hosting? Like, who has the where are the games at?
I believe they're neutral site. I think they're
Rhode Island. Yes,
in Rhode Island.
They're in Rhode Island. Providence.
I think it was in Columbia last year, as in New York City. Like I
remember
Columbia
Penn
campus.
had it with the Palestra a couple times there, but it's in Rhode Island. So I just wanted to see if one of them had a distinct advantage, so it doesn't look like who's in Rhode Island. By the way, which school was that? Okay,
Brown.
Yeah, got you.
Why wouldn't it always be at the Palestra? Now you're asking good questions.
Yeah, should always be there. Legendary place here. Nice arena, Division I city. It should be at the Palestra every single year. I agree.
So just so you know, by the way, Brown, of course, not into the Ivy League tourney. They finished 6-8 in conference play. So it's not like Brown is getting some sort of home floor advantage. Game's certainly not in Connecticut. In New Haven for Yale.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. James Jones, though, in this Yale Bulldogs team, really good once again, DRS. Very sound offensively, very efficient from beyond the arc, but they don't love to hoist a lot of threes if not necessary, and they do not necessarily run you off the three-point line as well. Donnie, I would tell you, if you were looking for some value in this conference tournament, you should go to Princeton. A team in Princeton, I think, is really, really good. However, based on tiebreakers, Princeton was 8-6. Dartmouth was 8-6. Dartmouth is the 3 seed, so their opening matchup is against Cornell. Princeton is the 4 seed. They have to play Yale. So you would have to beat Yale to get to a point in that conference tourney title game tomorrow. This could technically be the conference tournament title game if I'm telling you I think Princeton is the second best team overall in this league, but Yale has been so dominant this year in the Ivy.
By the way, here's what I want to know too is I see on All Ivy League from Ken Palm, A.K. Okereke. Now, granted, is that Okereke like Bobby Okereke changed his name in the NFL? Do you have a pronunciation on that? Because that guy could be a key player here, BWS. I want to make sure we're getting the pronunciation correct if they go dancing.
I will try to find that for you. I can pull up some game notes. Unprepared at the moment. My apologies. Cornell and Dartmouth, by the way, very fast tempos. And we are expecting a lot of points in those games today. 81-77 is Ken Palm's projection. Cornell not listed with a price as of yet. Wait, this is tomorrow, right? It starts tomorrow? I said today. Ivy League starts tomorrow, just to clarify. Starts on Saturday, Sunday.
School, man. So, it's got school.
So for sure they do. So that not listed as of yet, but keep an eye. I'm telling you, keep an eye on that total for tomorrow's game between Cornell and Dartmouth. Both top 25 adjusted tempos, obviously a very fast pace around the country. And to Donnie's point, Yale did knock out Princeton in both of their games this year, including in New Haven, winning by nearly 30, 84-59. 57. There is a reason that Yale and James Jones booked as the hefty favorite near a minus $2 price. They need to win 2 games. That is it. That is it. Saturday, Sunday in Rhode Island to go dancing once again.
There you go. And also, when you're taking a look at Cornell, I like the ability for up-tempo and shooting a three-point shot. And also, the little badge of honor you get with Cornell, being the best school in the state of New York. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, right?
Yeah. Good one. You like that one?
It is.
You felt good about that one?
Love that. Go Big Red. Man.
Yeah.
Come on. Do you apply to
Ithaca,
Cornell
beautiful
at all?
place.
Think of transferring to Cornell?
No. No, I used to go to Ithaca. They had beautiful gorges that you would jump off into a lake.
Like a,
it was nice.
Wow. Yeah. Limestone pits out there. Never swam in one of those in the summer. I see kids always getting in trouble for that, for the police. Like, stay out of the quarry over here. It's really deep. It's really cold, and you might smack your head. Kids don't listen, though. Shame.
Yeah, that was one of the things at the Ithaca Gorges as well. There was a large drop-off, basically a dam built. You couldn't swim near the dam. If you did, that's when things got dangerous. But we would bring some beer, have a good time. Hopefully I'm not outing myself. I think statute of limitations is done here. Because that was like 2015. Yeah, we're like 10 years away. We're good.
Still live in the state. That's tough, though. Better get out of state quick. New Jersey, great state to live in.
I'll be in Jersey on Sunday for Bracket Central Selection Show here on SportsGrid, where everything will be broken down, including the winner of the Ivy League tournament in terms of the 4 that we will see in Rhode Island starting tomorrow afternoon. All right, DRS, let's just go right into it. All of the matchups that we have on this Friday. I mean, it is a tremendous slate. And you should be watching college basketball all day long. But really, once you get to 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, just go look at the games that we have. ACC semifinal, Big East, Big 12 semifinals on this Friday. It is as good of a night as you will find any day of the year, including the NCAA tournament around college hoops. We start in the SEC, quarterfinal Friday. The top 4 seeds in the league now enter the fold. That includes Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Auburn, double-digit favorite against Ole Miss, trying to get a bad taste out of their mouth, dropping their final 2 games in regular season action, including at the buzzer in the rivalry showdown on Saturday in OT against the Crimson Tide. Florida, 8.5-point favorite against Missouri. Alabama, 5.5-point favorite against Kentucky. Story of that game, though, not the spread, but the total, an over-under of 179 and a hook. And can Texas keep its March momentum rolling? Now fully healthy, taking on Tennessee. The Volunteers favored by 9.5 points.
Slingshot effect, man. You're on that court. You played well here. The other team not on that court yet. Now trying to dip into a tournament that's going to be ultra competitive, something to keep an eye on. But also, as Ben points out, like, we love March Madness and the tournament next week because it leads to a national champion. But when you just took a look at the volume that you get on this Thursday and Friday and the quality of games, like, look at the SEC schedule. Like, this is like, hey, we hope this is a Saturday in the SEC. No, this is just a championship Friday in the SEC with so much on the line between these teams, and not a bad game either. Like, the Tennessee-Texas game might be a little bit off your radar because Tennessee's sometimes not the most fun team to watch, but Kentucky-Alabama, unbelievable. Florida-Missouri, absolutely fantastic. And then Auburn comes in as the number 1 team in the country going up against Ole Miss. Like, this is the SEC. We used to talk about the SEC in football and get excited. Look at these 4 games in the SEC on a championship conference Friday edition. It's outrageous. And you're right. All day long, unbelievable games leading you into the weekend. It's fantastic stuff.
A few more thoughts on each and every one of those games. We'll get to Big Ten Tournament quarterfinal Friday. We'll talk semifinal Friday in the ACC, Big 12, and Big East. It's a college basketball Friday here on the early line. You're in the right spot. DRS, something I bet right during the break as we look at the SEC quadruple header we have on quarterfinal Friday in Nashville. Auburn laying 6.5 in the opening half. Minus 120 for the VIG if you want to lay down with Auburn in that opening 20-minute stanza. Ole Miss played great yesterday, but a tight game against Arkansas. Sean Padula winning it near the buzzer for the Runnin' Rebs. But, Donnie, I really believe in this Bruce Pearl team. I really believe in what Auburn can do. I think Auburn will be there come Final Four weekend in San Antonio, just about 3 weeks from now. And I really do believe the Tigers have a terrible taste in their mouth with how the final week of the regular season ended. They were atop the nation, ranked number 1 in the country for 8 consecutive weeks before this last AP poll that came out on Monday afternoon. They dropped a tough road game against A&M. Felt like a trappy spot. It was. And then, of course, an overtime thriller, but against the bitter rivals in Alabama. Auburn is still a 1 seed. Auburn had clinched the regular season crown around the SEC, entering the final week of action. I think they're out here to say, listen, we're still the best team in this conference. We're still the best team in this country. We're going to make a statement early on from the jump. I'd lay the 6.5 with Auburn in the opening half.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, we're in unfamiliar formats due to the regular season and what we anticipate. Like, hey, two teams play on a Tuesday, they play on a Friday, maybe on a Sunday at that point. I always like to say you have the advantage for a basketball team when you played the day before in that same arena. You saw Mississippi yesterday picking up the W over Arkansas, where they have confidence coming in. So now you have Auburn, who's been off for a little bit of time, has not played on this court, and is going to catch a team that just played yesterday. So these are always the games that I look at with maybe a little bit more of a slant by saying, all right, the 11.5 does make some sense. And also, we're not playing for style points where even if it's in like an Olympic setting where it's like, hey, you know, one of the tiebreakers to get to the championship game in the conference is point differential, where you want to run it up as high as you can. Auburn wins by 5 points today. They're happy. They're moving on. Fantastic. You know, avoided that loss to Ole Miss. Let's play another day. And also, hopefully, we don't have any injuries here. So that line is almost that number, 11.5. I don't know if I want to jump in because Auburn's the better basketball team. Auburn should win this game. They're favored by double digits. They're the number 1 team in the country. We get that. But I get a little bit nervous about that. We played yesterday. You didn't play yet. We won sort of scenario and see how it plays out today.
March is about momentum. We know that. We'll see that in the NCAA tournament starting next week. You get a day off in between games if you do what the calling card is, survive and advance. Here, it's each and every day. So if you've already played, you get your sea legs wet to say, and to use that saying, it could help you. You could prevail. You know what the sight lines are like. You know what that floor and atmosphere is like. The old rust versus rest debate that we might see. I just believe in Auburn being prepared, being ready to go, and trying to prove once again that, hey, we're ready to go from the jump because we believe we are the best team in the country, and we are here to show it. Donnie, I think there's a lot of national championship bets that you could make. I think Auburn will be in the Final Four. Heck, I think Duke with a healthy Cooper Flagg should be there as well. I really believe in this Florida team. They're laying 8.5 points today against Missouri. Love the total, 161.5. Mizzou has been such a good over team. Florida over in its final 5 regular season games as well. Really prolific offensively. But, Donnie, this Gators team, the best cover team in the SEC throughout the conference slate. They won 9 of their final 10. The only hiccup on the road against Georgia. In all 9 of those wins for UF, a cover, including potentially the best pair of wins anybody in college basketball has this year. A road sweep in Tuscaloosa over Alabama, on the Plains over Auburn as well.
Yeah, another one of those games where played yesterday, nice quality victory, going to go up in competition, so the vibe certainly will be there. The atmosphere is probably going to be tremendous in Nashville. But when you look at Florida's offense, it's very good. Sometimes you look at the defensive profile of the team from Missouri, who's not bad but not great. They're built on turning you over. 18.5% of the possessions that Missouri plays on defense, they turn you over, which is great. But number 3 in conference play out of 16 teams that not turning it over is Florida. So when you're used to playing on defense where you're not that efficient from the 3-point line or the 2 and you rely on turnovers with a team that won't turn the basketball over and rebounds extremely well, you find yourself in a little bit of trouble. The one thing, though, that Missouri does well, best team bet in conference play at getting to the free throw line. They're number 1. So maybe if you can get Florida in foul trouble, but it's easier said than done. Hey, they got a big man. Just get him in foul trouble. Well, the big man understands how to stay out of foul trouble. You get that? So we'll see if Missouri can take advantage of that. But Florida does have some advantages. The one advantage they don't have is they're terrible from the free throw line as a team. And when they're going to cover close to double digits, sometimes that creeps in late in the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, DRS. Again, the story for Alabama and Kentucky, a total at 179.5. In a final game in February, or one of their final few in February, Alabama at home beat Kentucky by 13, covered as a 12-point favorite. 96-83. How many points is that? 179. The total had ballooned all day Friday night into Saturday evening. I remember talking about that game, DRS, and I think Ken Palm had the prediction of 177 points. We expected a total in the upper 170s. It got to 181 and a hook and barely stayed under with 179 total points. 179.5 is that total today. And Alabama doesn't play games that have a total of 145, 155 and a half or so. They play games in the 160s, 170s, heck, even in the low 180s, and they have still gone over in 6 of their last 8. I don't know if you're paying the premium to bet the over of 179.5. I wouldn't be rushing to the window to lay an under bet on that as well.
Yeah, no, you're right about that because they were going to get tempo in this game. You're going to get 2 feel-good vibes here. We understand the stakes of this game, but good luck on that. Like me yesterday, looking at that Illinois-Iowa game and going like, you know what? Illinois' defense isn't that great, but they're going to force Iowa to do some things they don't want to do. Within 5 minutes, I knew that game was absolutely blown out the doors where Iowa was going to be cooking on offense from the three-point line. They were dominating. But I have that effect where 179.5, most people say, like, just take the under and see where it goes until that game is 15-14 at the first time out. You're like, I know exactly where this game is going to wind up. That's going to be a great game. 2 teams that aren't going to play a lot of defense, but I do give the edge to Alabama. I think Alabama wins that game, Ben, and covers in that game.
Yeah, I think so as well. Texas and Tennessee, an intriguing one. The Longhorns playing great basketball right now. They have won outright as a dog in both of their games in Nashville, including the double overtime thriller yesterday against A&M. But now they get a very stout Volunteers team defensively. How does that look for Texas? We'll continue to talk about that in Big Ten Quarterfinal Friday next. Big Ten Quarterfinal Friday in Indianapolis, where the top 4 seeds, just like in the SEC tourney, enter the fold today. That includes the team that won the regular season crown, number 11 under Tom Izzo, with a 3-game advantage. The top seed in the Big Ten tourney, Michigan State, at noon Eastern time, takes on Oregon. 5.5-point spread, now 6.5 in favor of the Spartans, a total at 142 and a hook. Maryland is the 2 seed. They get a streaking Illinois team that has won 4 consecutive games since the disaster in MSG against Duke. They have covered in all 4 wins. Michigan has dropped 3 in a row on a skid entering postseason play. They are an underdog against Purdue, despite being the higher seed, and UCLA in Wisconsin in a virtual pick'em. The Badgers a slight moneyline favorite. That's the second game of the day in Indy. Donnie, of those 4 on quarterfinal Friday at the Big Ten tournament, which one do you like the most?
Like, I'm probably more comfortable winning. Let's just forget about the spreads itself. Would be Michigan State. Not just because it's the highest line. I just have the trust in where they don't fall behind like, oh, we're just not shooting the ball well. They do a lot of things great. And if they are shooting the ball well, good luck. You're not going to beat them. However, look at the higher seeds out here and look at the price points here. Maryland -1.5, Michigan +2.5 at that point. So the underdog against Purdue, UCLA +1.5 shows you the depth of this conference. And also given the ability where most people in most sports, hey, rest is the biggest advantage that you have. Well, a lot of these teams are rested here, and I don't think they have the advantage. Like for me, that streaking Illinois team where you're now starting to see what we thought they would be at the beginning of the season, putting up over 100 yesterday. You don't think those vibes are good coming in, playing a Maryland team that they're going to be hopefully having that same offensive output? You take a look at Purdue, equally impressive to knock down the three-point shot, held off the team last night, saying, okay, didn't play our best basketball, but now we have the game under our belt in this building, and we take on Michigan the next day. So for me, I'm looking towards the lower-seeded teams. Like if you look at that roster right there, Oregon, Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin. And he said, Donnie, you had to take the higher seeds or the lower seeds. I'm actually taking the higher seeds in this tournament. Give me 8, 7, 6, and 5 to have at least a 500 record or better winning outright today. How about that?
I like that, DRS. I like the way that you phrased it. I would agree, though. I think Illinois is making some noise because this is not just an Illini team getting hot at the right time. It's an Illini team that has been highly talented all year long and adds back Morez Johnson Jr., an Illinois team that is not great defensively, but as Brad Underwood, the head coach in Champaign, would tell you, they're not trying to force turnovers. They're just trying to stay in front of you and play sound defense. So you add back one of your bigs in Morez Johnson Jr., Kylan Boswell, a career-best 24 points last night for Illinois, and taking nothing away from Maryland. The Crab 5 is sensational, and it should be a good game, but the Illini not just playing like the 7 seed in their own conference tourney. Purdue, the higher seed, but Purdue in a much better form of basketball right now than Michigan. I think there are some questions, DRS. Are the Maize and Blue just in a bad spell? Or is this the Wolverines team that maybe the luck has kind of caught up with them? They had played in 15 games, decided by 4 points or fewer before this 3-game slide. They had won 10 of 15, including 9 consecutive wins by 4 points or fewer. They have not looked good the last 3. Is that the true representation of Michigan? Or are they just playing some bad basketball and get snapped out of it in Indianapolis? And again, Wisconsin is a slight favorite in that matchup against UCLA.
Yeah, and again, getting back to Michigan's team here, you're entering into a game where they haven't played yet in that facility. 14 out of 18 teams in the Big Ten at being offensively efficient. They turn the basketball over a ton. Purdue turns you over. And understand this, Michigan shoots a lot of three-point shots. There's 17 out of 18 teams at making the three-point shot, and Purdue will let you shoot a lot of those three-point shots, but defend it well. I don't think it's a great matchup per se for Michigan. Maybe be a little bit different. Like, hey, Michigan played yesterday, shot well from the three-point line. We expect that today. But first game on a court where you're built on shooting the three-point shot and already don't shoot a high percentage, where do you typically shoot better at, Ben? In your home gym, we're used to the shooting lines and we're used to playing. Now you're in the big stage here. A lot of pressure for a team that's already played on that court. I really like Purdue today against Michigan. Not to say Michigan's not a good ball club, just the matchup itself. Really efficient offense on one side that played yesterday. Inefficient offense that is getting its first look today in Indianapolis.
There is also an idea, DRS, that Michigan State could be picked off despite being dominant throughout the regular season. 5.5-point spread. That's it. In favor of the Spartans today against the Ducks. The total of that game, 141.5. We know how great MSU is defensively. Oregon also under in 6 of its last 7. I talked about Dana Altman's prowess in the month of March. Oregon was a top 15 team, middle of January, 15-2. They dropped 6 of their next 7, including 5 in a row. They've now won 8 straight, and they are perfect here in the month of March. That should be a great one to start the day in Indianapolis. And that is magnified, DRS, during semifinal Friday, especially in prime time. In 3 of our 5 high major leagues, we are on to the semifinals, which means only 2 matchups. So maybe not the full day slate that started in the afternoon, but in that prime time hour, oh boy, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, as good as you will see. We start in the ACC, Duke in North Carolina for a 3rd time this year. I was going to be fascinated by what this spread opened up as, knowing what is at stake for Carolina, in desperate need of another quad 1 victory, and knowing more than likely that Cooper Flagg is not playing tonight for the Blue Devils. And then hoping, DRS, with so much talent still for Duke, the line at 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, I could back the Blue Devils. Line open at 8.5, working its way in favor of the Heels. Now just a 7.5-point spread in favor of Duke. That total 154.5. Assuming more than likely we do not see Cooper Flagg tonight, how do you break down the first ACC semifinal this evening in Charlotte?
And if you're not doing your homework, right, and you just go, I just go to Ken Palm and look at the final scores because he has all the numbers in the computer, I trust that. He has it at 84-70. Wow, look at that disparity. They don't take into effect injuries here. So his computer is still telling him Cooper Flagg is playing tonight and not removing him from the equation. That is going to be key. But Lois, I'm going to get back to this game in a second. You know I like to do this, Ben. And it is a Friday, so usually, the kid glove treatment is off because kids don't have school the next day. 7 o'clock and a 9:30 start. You know what that means. Game number 1 is going to run a little bit long. That second game is going to tip at 9:40. Why are we doing it? Honestly, why are we doing this? Like, we can play basketball all week long during the day. It's fantastic. You watch it play out. I'm not asking you to play Duke in North Carolina at noon today on a Friday, but why aren't we playing this game at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock? You're telling me that, nobody's going to be – what, are you kidding me? People take off down there in the ACC between Duke and Carolina just for the ACC tournament every single year. The fans will be in the building. It'll be stacked to the gills. Everybody can watch, which means we can enjoy the second game as well. We don't have to wait till midnight for an ACC East Coast game to get over. Now, having getting back to that game, I'm feeling Duke today. I am. Like, I just think it's one of those where the Duke second-hand players, which is a shame you can call them that because they're tremendous even without Cooper Flagg, rising to the occasion. Loved what I saw yesterday. It is the ultimate rivalry, and the chance that Carolina's capitalized over the past couple of years. Oh, Duke's got a big moment. Let's ruin that big moment. No bigger moment to ruin for North Carolina than beat them without Cooper Flag and wave them off the court saying, enjoy the NIT at this point. I'm feeling Duke today, and that line is strong out here at 7.5. Give me the Duke Blue Devils by 10 points. It's almost sounds like it shouldn't be happening, but my goodness, I'm still going to take it.
You're going to get me to buy in, DRS, because earlier before the weekend got started in the regular season finale in Chapel Hill, I thought the odds makers were laying an interesting line on Carolina to make the big dance, minus 114 on either side, despite the fact UNC was a double-digit home dog against Duke. Now, of course, the window of opportunity is there for UNC with no Cooper Flag playing, but I'm still hoping that ticket comes through. We'll talk more about ACC semifinals and Big East semis next. Duke in North Carolina tonight in a semifinal in the ACC tournament in Charlotte. Here are the stakes. Duke trying to win a tournament title after an outright ACC crown, their first under John Shire. Great. Duke also understanding they've got bigger fish to fry. They've got a much higher ceiling to try to reach. They're still a 7.5-point favorite against UNC, even without the services of Cooper Flag, and kind of under the radar because of the notable and significant injury to Flag. Malik Brown, who has dealt with some injuries, was back healthy for Duke, provides a lot of veteran guidance in that front court. For UNC, DRS, win, and they might be in to the big dance. It is a golden opportunity. It was going to be difficult against a fully healthy Duke team to knock off the Blue Devils tonight, to garner that second quad one win. This is your time to do it. Yes, you are still a 7.5-point underdog, but if Carolina wants to go dancing, it's a must-win tonight in Charlotte.
And also, you are looking at those numbers up there and saying, this is correct. Like, you see the 7.5. Wait, without the best player, it's easy on Carolina. Let me go to the FanDuel Sportsbook here quickly and try to take a look at it, because I want to see, did we get a look at the overall betting statistics on each side as I slide it down to, all right, 7 o'clock statistics? You have 81% of the bets on the spread line here, North Carolina. 88% of the money on North Carolina. So you see Ben there on the screen doing the dance. I mean, again, just remove analytics out of the equation altogether. Best player on the best team goes down. Good. Must-win situation for North Carolina. Most people waking up this morning, and maybe even myself included, well, I wonder what that spread would be. Is it a pick 'em? It's neutral court. It's not at Duke and Cameron at this point. You just saw them play, and yes, Duke won, but Flag is always instrumental. You just figure like that pressure would sort of switch over to Duke, where they don't have their best player, and this should be closer. That 7.5 is such a strong line. You know what I'm interested in saying? This tip time tonight, Ben, is 7 o'clock. Where does that line open? Put it this way. For me, the way the betting is probably going to come in, there's no way this goes to 8.5, right? This can only go lower at this point. So if you are a Duke Blue Devils backer right now, I probably look at this line and go, I like Duke tonight. I'm not betting the 7.5. I can't see this line going to, 8.5, 9.5, 10.5 at this point. And by the way, if Flag did play, what is this line, Ben? Neutral site. 11.5? Is that what it would be?
13.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were double. Duke was a 9.5-point favorite, 10.5-point favorite at times last Saturday in Cameron, or last Saturday in the Dean Dome in Chapel Hill. They were a 14-point favorite for the first matchup in Cameron. This would be double digits bare minimum, even understanding the stakes for UNC. And I thought Donnie's point about how Carolina had the ultimate trump card against Coach K. This game doesn't have the same sort of reverence as that Final Four matchup 3 years ago. But Duke gets to play spoiler, which is funny, getting to play spoiler as a 7.5-point favorite. And yes, the dance is when you see 88% of public money. I mean, come on.
Like
Second ACC. Come on now. ACC semifinal, the second one of the day. Clemson and Louisville, DRS. Basically a pick 'em, total at 140 and a hook. If you're feeling good about value in Charlotte, this could be the spot you look to. Clemson, the only team to beat Duke in ACC action in the regular season. Louisville handed Clemson one of their 2 losses in conference play. How do you break down that matchup?
It's a tough one. It really is. And you see like the anticipation of this game, plus 1.5. So we're talking about a coin flip, and rightfully so. You look at both of these teams, efficiency on offense for Clemson in conference play, third. Efficiency on offense for Louisville, second. Louisville's defense in conference play efficiency, second. Clemson's third. So these two teams match up extremely well. Clemson doesn't get to the free throw line. Louisville doesn't foul. So right away, you take a look and say, okay, well, if your strength was Clemson getting to the free throw line, that's going to hurt them. It doesn't. When I look at the matchup here, it's going to come down to the three-point line. You look at Louisville, love to launch the threes, even though their best three-point shooter is probably, again, not going to play today. But you also look at Clemson's defense. They'll somewhat let you shoot the three-point shot, but defend it well. I just like Clemson's pedigree overall. Over the course of the season, you look at their records, just about identical. But when I look at it in the ACC, I think Clemson's better than Louisville. On a neutral site, I'm going to trust Clemson in this game to get the job done and advance into the ACC championship game.
Both plus 340 right now because it is basically a pick 'em for their individual semifinal matchup to claim that ACC tournament title, whatever that number would be.
Yeah.
And let's just say this. If UNC pulls off the upset, Clemson or Louisville more than likely a slight favorite for Saturday night in Charlotte to win that ACC tourney title. We'll talk Big East semifinals, but we'll do it all through the scope of what we do here on Fridays on the Early Line. A college basketball conference tournament pick 6. So we have said a few times, normally you're used to a football Friday for a good majority of the year on the Early Line. We set the stage for a football slate, college football, and of course a Sunday slate around the National Football League. And every football Friday here on TEL, we end with a pick 6, some best bets for your NFL weekend. Well, let's do a conference tournament pick 6 in college basketball on a day we have dubbed a College Hoops Friday here on the Early Line. A winner for all 5 of the high major conference tournaments who ends up a tournament champ at the end of this weekend, and then one at a different level around the sport. Any of the mid-majors that will battle for a conference tourney title this weekend and that automatic bid to the big dance. DRS, let's start in the ACC quickly. You have a lot of belief in Duke. Why will the Blue Devils still end, even without Cooper Flagg, as a tournament title winner in Charlotte?
Trust that the odds makers are the smartest people in the room. You see the spread today, 7.5-point favorite for the Duke Blue Devils. They're supposed to win this game today and not really have all that much of a struggle. Now, granted, we'll see how it plays out. So let's just say Duke does win. Louisville and Clemson, 2 really good basketball teams on the opposite side. Duke wins this game against Carolina. Duke will again be favored in the ACC final. So that is the precipice on what I need to see out of the Duke Blue Devils. Just victories here, because I'm no longer paying that price tag of minus 360, minus 380. You're now down to an even price point of, let's just call it a minus 110 price in that spot, where I'm going to be the favorite in the next 2 basketball games, neutral court in North Carolina. I'll take my chances there. Could blow up in flames. It could go down because Carolina needs that game, and it's a rivalry, and you start to rely on your best players when the game gets really close against quality opponents late, and Cooper Flagg won't be there. I get it. But this team is too good and too strong, and also now has that chip on their shoulder. Like, oh, they think we can't beat them, even though coaches always play it up. You're the favorites there. Shire's not going to be like, hey, guys, should be an easy victory without, Flagg playing here. This is a big-time matchup today, but the odds are in my favor on the Duke Blue Devils, and I'll take them still to win the ACC.
And you're getting a discount. They were minus 340 because of their dominance in the ACC all year long to also win that tournament title in Charlotte. Now it's minus 110. But they only have 2 more games to go. And even without Cooper Flagg and the entire world betting on Carolina, Duke still remains a 7.5-point favorite. Donnie, I was still playing the value game before conference tournament started in Charlotte and before the Cooper Flagg injury. Looking at the bottom of the bracket, I like the price on Louisville a little bit more than that of Clemson at a 7-1 price. So I still back the Cards. A good 3-point shooting team who hoists a lot of threes and solid defensively, led by Chucky Hepburn. I believe in what Pat Kelsey has done in his opening year there for the Cards. And they pick them tonight against Clemson. I'm hoping Louisville wins, hoping that I can find that hedging opportunity for the tournament title game on Saturday. We've spent a lot of time in the ACC. Let's get to the Big 12. It's semifinal Friday as well in Kansas City. Donnie, who is your tournament champ when all is said and done tomorrow night?
Yeah, I was looking for a team to fade other than taking, let's just say, the Houston Cougars at a minus 130 price where they currently sit at now. Did I want to go even longer down the list with BYU can catch fire from three-point range? Yep, that's a fun team, 6-1 price. Arizona is talented at plus 550, but I want to stay true to my form here. When I came into this week, before the games even started, it was going to be Iowa State and it was going to be Texas Tech for me at dog prices, hopefully somebody to knock off the Houston squad. Now, for me, I'm still going to take Texas Tech. Plus 280 price. Give me that bonus back. Duke was a minus 110, so barely laying juice at this point. This one, I want a little bit more of a payback. Plus 280, legitimate chance to play good defense, knock down the three-point shot, maybe knock off the Houston Cougars here. I'll go with the underdog as opposed to the favorite in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm going with the favorite in Houston, a team that just keeps continuing to win basketball games at a minus 130 price. I think BYU is a very compelling matchup. The Cougs are the third most efficient defense in the country, that being Houston. The Cougars of BYU love to shoot the three, and they make a lot of threes. In fact, they were 50% from deep yesterday in a highly offensive affair against Iowa State. And despite the fact that Houston is really good defensively, they'll let you take some threes. They don't often run you off the three-point line. I think BYU is a really compelling matchup for Kelvin Sampson's team. But I trust in Houston. I think they can win 2 games at a minus 130 price. I think it is there. I thought a healthy Iowa State team, had they knocked off BYU, snapping the Cougars' 8-game win streak, with both Tamin Lipsey and Keyshawn Gilbert in the fold, that might have been the tournament title game today against Houston. Iowa State, of course, not healthy yesterday, and BYU rallied in the second half. Really love this Texas Tech team as well, DRS, and I think that 2.5-point spread tonight against Arizona might be slightly discounted. Sure, Arizona beat Kansas last night. I'm not in love with this version of the Wildcats we have seen the last month and a half down the stretch run of Big 12 play. Let's move on from the Big 12 to the Big East. Semifinal Friday inside the world's most famous arena, the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. Who do you have winning the Big East tournament title with a wonderful Saturday night cap in MSG tomorrow?
The sentimental favorite, St. John's at home in the Garden, reigniting New York City as the basketball mecca, taking care of their business in their home arena, and still getting a plus money price at a plus 120 here. Understand this. Yeah. Connecticut's going to give them a run. Creighton would give them a run. Marquette would give them a run. I understand that. But when you look at St. John's, and again, I get a little bit nervous. First games, home court, so many expectations. They looked very good against Butler, played fantastic defense, jitters out of the way. That crowd now moving from a Thursday to a Friday night in the Garden will be sensational for St. John's, and I think they take care of business. Still at a plus money price. They're in the perfect setting and the perfect environment to handle their business. I'll take them.
It is a really great semifinal Friday inside Madison Square Garden. 4.5-point spread in favor of St. John's against Marquette. Marquette coming back from down by as many as 14 in the second half. I have a very, 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 very small little pizza money bet on Marquette to win the national championship at a 130-1 price. Just hoping that Shaka Smart's veteran team can make a run come the big dance, because they have so many pieces that have been there before. Cam Jones, Stevie Mitchell, everybody that they have as a part of this team. And they're a team much like Maryland that does it with their starting 5. With that being said, DRS, they're not looking great right now. And I don't think they win tonight against St. John's. I do believe it is the Red Storm. But you want to see Marquette keep this game close. Yeah. Overtime thriller in Milwaukee to end the regular season just 6 days ago. That game had a total in the mid-140s, skied over. St. John's has been an under team because of how great they are defensively. That nightcap tonight in MSG, oh boy, UConn and Creighton. The Blue Jays tested. Frankly, they played a clunker last night as a double-digit favorite against DePaul. They're the underdog tonight against UConn. I can tell you what everybody in the Big East is hoping for. I can tell you what Fox is hoping for from a media perspective. Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, Big East tournament title game, St. John's and UConn. Now that would go crazy.
No, that would be perfect because that's two fan bases where you say, like, okay, second home as opposed to first home. That's St. John's home, but the second home, UConn, says that's our tournament. That's where we claim it here. That's where we bring our fans down. That would be an exciting environment, which everybody would love to see. And you would get an unbelievable competitive game, not only on the court, but the antics maybe of both coaches. Would you love to see that? Rick Pitino and Hurley on the sideline, and you know they're always going to focus 15 times a game at least on Big Dad Hurley sitting right behind the bench here. Wonder what's going through his mind as well. It is a match made in heaven. We need to see that happen, and it would be so much fun to see that game on a Saturday night come down to the final 2 minutes and let one of these players sort of sign their names into immortality into the Big East tournament, which we've seen so many times before. That's what we want to see.
St. John's sweeping UConn throughout the regular season. Both games even away from the Garden. But that electricity, man, really as good as you will find. UConn playing much better defense as of late. Still think we see some points tonight, over 139.5 against Creighton. We'll continue to do our pick six and our conference tournament title winners this weekend next on the Early Line on SportsGrid. We continue our conference tournament pick six, picking the winners of each of the 5 high major conference tournaments this weekend. We have gone through our first 3. Donnie in the ACC likes Duke. I like Louisville. In the Big 12, he goes with Texas Tech. I'll take the favorite in Houston. We are aligned in the Big East. St. John's to storm through the Garden and claim a tournament title after an outright conference regular season crown as well. And in the Big Ten, DRS, both you and me aligned once again with some value on the Purdue Boilermakers. Big matchup for the Boilers in quarterfinal Friday in Indianapolis. They're a 2.5-point favorite now against Michigan, despite being the lower seed. As that 6th spot, Michigan has lost 3 straight, entering postseason play, and is seen as the underdog there. Of course, it starts tonight, DRS. So what do you like in this matchup between Purdue against the Maize and Blue?
Yeah, I think Purdue has the advantage from the three-point line and also some of the other things coming into it, which I've said. You're taking a look at Purdue, already played, got a win out of the way, a close win at the end, hard-fought USC game, and now a team against Michigan, which I have a lot of doubts with already coming in cold here. Typically looking to launch three-point shots against a team that might defend it a little bit better than what you have, and also, and again, playing in that building already. As we look at some of the price points as they move all the way down, like Michigan State, I think we can agree, probably the best overall team in the Big Ten and priced that way, but they don't play a brand of basketball where they're going to destroy you. They'll play good defense, not turn the basketball over, make shots when they need to, and not be overly reliant on a three-point shot. That's a great recipe for success. However, when I'm looking for my Big Ten champion, sometimes you got to go out of the box a little bit, and the price points always matter. It's a lot different if you ask Ben and me this question, hey, just pick the winner, no price point associated. Of course, everybody's rolling Michigan State because they are the best team. But a 5-to-1 price, I can't pass that up because the matchups make sense. But understand this, it was really close. There's 2 5-to-1 price points right now sitting out there in the Big Ten. Illinois, like, we're going to blame the Duke Blue Devils for the Fighting Illini going on a run because how bad they were smashed on a neutral site in Madison Square Garden and then got the wake-up call because that's a fun team. But also understand this. The couple teams that they played, I think it was 4 straight victories, 3 to end the regular season and 1 already in the Big Ten. Not those opponents that are grimy with ultra-talented. They're going to get a true test today, and you'll find out a lot about that Illini squad. But for me, Purdue just made sense. A 5-to-1 point here. Great guard play. You know, a player of the year type candidate already on your team as well. That's the team I'm looking forward to. Ultra efficient on offense and played already. There's a chance that Purdue can take it down. And at a 5-to-1 price point, Ben, I couldn't pass that up for this.
DRS, I think we told everybody when we were previewing the Big Ten tournament to look at the bottom half of the bracket. Michigan State deservedly booked as a favorite and still not seen as such an overwhelming favorite because of that style of basketball. What happens if they go cold from the floor one night? They've answered that question time and again. They're just a really stout basketball team through and through, but because you could find some value bottom half of the bracket. In 2 teams that entered at a 7-1 price, now at a 5-to-1 number, Illinois and Purdue. I bet Purdue early on at that plus 700 price. Could not fault you for looking at Illinois and doing the same. I like the Boilers, though, making some noise, at least getting to that conference championship game on Sunday. Big Ten tournament, final conference championship game right before the bracket is unveiled in the selection show. So from the Big Ten to the SEC. It is quarterfinal Friday in Nashville as well. The big dogs into the fold. All 4 of the top 4 seeds: Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Donnie, who do you like today? Who do you like being there to cut down the nets on Sunday in Nashville?
I mean, awesome matchups here. And again, I'm so excited for that Kentucky-Alabama game because the 180 points that are expected in that game, so much from the breakdown, handicap, player props, points perspective, 3-point shots, it all happens there. But I'm going to do something which a team that I can't stand at one point, but I think makes some sense. Buying on the neutral court premises, buying on being a great defense, and being able to strangle the other team. That's Tennessee. And once again, price point is indicative because if we're just asking who's going to win it, everybody's taking Auburn. I'm taking the Tennessee Volunteers at a 5-1 price. I love the matchup they have today, which is going to catapult them into the weekend. And also, get your legs wet here today. Win this basketball game, play good defense, and sort of spring shot it forward. So I'm going to go Tennessee at a 5-1 price, even though I don't like them. I don't like the way they play basketball. But in this sort of concept, I think makes some sense. And the price point, for me, too hard to pass up. Put it this way. I love Alabama. I think they're fun. I think they win today. But that whole, I got to rely on really offense more than defense, which is why I went Tennessee at the 5-1 price over them. Even though I root for Alabama, give me Tennessee 5-1 price. Too much to pass up on that defense. I'll take it every day.
The Vols could, if they win today, will actually see Auburn in the semifinal matchup, assuming Auburn, as a 12.5-point favorite, does handle business against Ole Miss. You have the most efficient defense in college basketball. That is Rick Barnes and his Volunteers. It has been a staple of success forever. Tennessee in the postseason, in the NCAA tournament, different story. Donnie, there's a team I really believe in the SEC, and of course, I think Auburn will be there at the end of the road. Love Alabama. We'll see about the defense in those most significant of games. But for me, it's Florida. I think Florida plays well today against Missouri. I would look to the over of that total in the low 160s. I bet Florida, as soon as the odds open up for the SEC tournament, other portion away from Auburn and Tennessee, they would have to go through Alabama more than likely to get to that tournament title game. But I really, really love this Gators team. I think when all is said and done, I've got to bet on a bunch of teams to win a national championship. I do believe Florida will be that pick that I give out to win a national title. DRS, before you head into the money line, your other conference tournament title winner could be any of the other leagues we are seeing doing battle at this moment. Where do you look?
The Atlantic 10, St. Joseph's, Hawk Hill. The Hawk will never die. Why? I do think VCU is the best team in this division, but you're looking at a price point of a plus 750 number heading in to a team that absolutely can flame it from 3-point range and play quality defense. I like where I'm going because I like the matchup today against Dayton, which means you can advance and play a team like VCU. So if you've ever noticed in a St. Joe game and you look in the corner where there is an animal bird going like this, a hawk, repeatedly all game long, did you know, Ben? That person that does this actually gets a scholarship for doing that. And also at the same time, if they stop their hands from moving, they are no longer allowed to be the mascot here. So all game long, constantly doing this in a corner, it's worth a scholarship. I'd take that job. How about it?
A man from regional Philadelphia, back in a team with the Big Five. St. Joe's to win the A-10. DRS, I'll see you in person on Monday. Have a great weekend. Tired.